Yeah, so my name is Vinil Laraka. I work for Lydonia Technologies as the director of engineering. So today, we're talking about Island, but I wanted to give some background on Lydonia and why we're partnered with Island. Um, we focus primarily on automation and AI, as well as data as it relates to sort of the underpinning of all of that. When we first started, really getting into automation and the AI space, we started to quickly realize that we needed a way to secure customers, especially when we were doing work within their systems. And when we discovered Island as a potential solution for that, we came to another realization, which is that it isn't just securing um, these contractors that we're bringing in to systems, but it was doing a lot more than that. So much more so that it became a probably the most significant part of our security stack. Um, so, the way we think about zero trust is, essentially trust nothing and authorize everything or authenticate everything. Um, but we primarily want to focus on securing human and non-human users. And when we think about non-human users, a lot of that can be done programmatically. Typically, we're talking about robots that are in systems. We know what they're doing, what they're going to do, and we can start to lock things down that they're touching. The more difficult part is securing human users, which really there was no good way of doing before Island. And now, um, everybody accesses their business applications through the browser. They access, anything they really need to do their day job through their browser. And so applying the security at the browser level is really the only way to properly secure human users. So with that, I'll turn it over to you.
Fantastic. Great. Well, it's great to meet everybody. And what I want to focus the presentation on, as well as the demo, is going to be talking about Island's enterprise browser. So this is a fascinating new space, and it's growing tremendously fast. And hopefully this will resonate with everybody here as well, too. So um, hopefully everybody should be able to see the screens now. The challenge we've had, just like what Vinny was talking about earlier, is that the browser that we've been working in for the past 20 plus years has been a consumer grade version, right? It's mainly designed for e-commerce, for content delivery, for commerce. And as things became more enabled into the cloud, SaaS adoption started becoming more mainstream. We never really trusted where users go and what they did and the code and the data coming into our browsers. And we definitely don't want our information going out, and because of that, we've always had to surround the browsers with a bunch of agents and gateways and proxies and this really complex technology stack just to make it comply with our security policies. And this is where we feel an enterprise browser can really help streamline a lot of these processes and make our security as well as our end users' productivity and their entire experience around their access to applications and data a much better experience than what we've done in the past. So when you look at what an enterprise browser can bring to the table for a lot of organizations is really reducing that tech stack that they have in their infrastructure today. The ability for the browser to be able to enforce all of those actions right inside of the browser simplifies how we're routing all of the traffic and these controls that we did in the past. Instead of sending traffic through proxies and gateways and DLPs and all these other tools we used to do, why not have that security awareness training and those controls directly in that flow? The browser already understands where users are going. It understands the risk ratings of websites. It understands the data that you might be looking at before it's even being rendered, right? So this makes it for a lot more effective way to implement those controls directly inside of the browser. And an enterprise browser is obviously built for the enterprise, right? It has the business in mind. But this is one of the few solutions that I've worked with in a long time where you don't have to do a full rip and replace. You don't have to have massive change control to implement an enterprise browser and to see value immediately because it's a browser, right? It's just an application that you can push out, leverage in any of your existing deployment methodologies. A lot of our customers bring Island in to solve one use case or a handful of use cases, or even a single line of business will bring Island in. But as they start to realize that a lot of these use cases can overlap or help augment or replace what is currently in the environment. We've seen the adoption go from those unique use cases to primary browser more often than not in a lot of our customers. And of course, it's obviously very focused on that end user experience. It's got productivity tools built in. Security is going to be everywhere, but not get in the way of that end user experience. So how we're building an enterprise browser is we're leveraging the same Chromium open source project that drives Chrome, Edge, Brave, Opera today. And we're doing this for a couple of reasons. One, it keeps that end user experience exactly the same. We've been very fortunate in that the end user has been inside of a browser for a couple of decades. So there's been no training required. The adoption has been extremely seamless as organizations bring an enterprise browser into their environment. From the networking, the rendering, the bookmarks, tabs, extensions, everything looks and feels exactly the same, right? So users can get to productivity extremely quickly. More importantly, though, is that all of the interoperability testing, performance, all the API integrations that you've done with your browsers today will translate very easily into Island as well too. Same footprint, same source code, so you don't have to revet all of the things you've already done across your IT stack as well as your applications. More importantly, though, is we built this with the enterprise in mind, though. So next slide. A couple of things that the enterprises need is that it has to understand that trust model. So we'll integrate with your IDP, whether you're using Okta, Ping, Azure AD, we'll integrate with that. And then now when users log into an enterprise browser, this gives you the ability to automatically, dynamically generate their workspace or their set of entitlements, based on their groups, their memberships, based on device posture, location. It gives you a lot of dexterity in defining access into your applications and visibility into data. And because users are logging into a browser now, this also opens up the ability for logging and audit capabilities that were extremely challenging in the past. We had to do things like SSL decryption, break and inspect, putting agents on the endpoint, just to be able to take a sneak peek inside of those encrypted sessions. Because the browser is the natural termination point of all that traffic, we can see everything post-decryption. So you have the ability now to infinitely see everything that the user is seeing as they're browsing inside of corporate applications or areas where there's sensitive data. But then you also have the flexibility in your policies to give your users the assurance of privacy. So when they're doing personal browsing, personal email, personal banking, we can provide visual indicators that tell the user, we're not Big Brother. We're not watching your traffic when you're doing personal browsing such as that, right? So that has resonated extremely well with our customers in Europe, for example, right? Or privacy centric type of organizations. Healthcare is a big example of that, financials, et cetera. And the browser's main objective is to pour information out, right? Unfortunately, there's a dozen ways for us to take that information off of the browser. So this opens up a whole bunch of data loss scenarios, the ability to cut, copy, paste, upload, download, screenshot, screen sharing, printing. We can gate every single one of those functions. And this shows off way better in a demo than me just talking about it. So I'll walk you through a lot of those last mile controls so that we can ensure that data stays fundamentally secure inside of those applications. And then another area that we've built into an enterprise browser is robotic process automations. A lot of these automations allow you to extend the capabilities of an enterprise browser based off of your business logic and your business workflows. A couple of examples of this is the ability for you to inject multi-factor authentication anywhere you want, the ability for you to manipulate any elements inside of that presentation layer. If you want to make certain applications read only, we can do that. We can turn off buttons. We can turn off things that allow users to interact with those applications without having to change any backend, changing source code, integrated with any APIs. We can inject any of these workflows anywhere you want based on those different types of device posture or any other types of criteria that you want to specify, right? So this gives you a lot of dexterity in really setting up an enterprise browser to work within your business requirements. And then, all of these capabilities drive a whole bunch of use cases that our customers have leveraged Island for. So next slide. These are some of the common ones that our customers have brought us in to help solve. There's been dozens more that we've seen, but I'll just cover two of these really quickly, and then we'll jump into the demo. But the first one is just ensuring that data stays protected inside of your applications, right? So I've been in DLP for over a decade, and I'll tell you that is not a fun process, right? And it's tedious and it's never ending. You have to understand the data, classify it, categorize it, create all these rules, pattern matching, regexes, et cetera. With an island, we're taking a very different approach. You can create application boundaries across your applications. So we can say these are going to be the 5 applications where I want my data, my employees, my data to flow in a very seamless way. But the minute someone tries to move that data outside of that boundary into a personal email, into a local application like a notepad, or even into Gen AI, ChatGPT capabilities, we can enforce those data boundaries and ensure that that data can never leave the boundaries that you specified. We had a very large hotel chain that had over 1,000 rules inside of their Salesforce to ensure that all these different types of data can never leave that single application. And when we started working with them, they realized they could collapse all of that into just one rule, right? And that rule was do not allow any data to leave outside of this application. And now that allows you to manage it via allow lists instead of deny lists, right? Which is infinitely much easier to maintain. And then the second popular one is to help with BPOs, BYODs, contractors, right? Third-party access. How do you ensure that you can spin up and allow these types of users to be able to access and work with your organizations, your teams, your data, without having to do what we used to do in the past, such as shipping out laptops, standing up VDI, VPNs, and all of this infrastructure, just be able to get these types of users and devices to interact with your applications. When we started working with some of these customers, they realized they could just ship out Island, right? It's just a browser. It can install and run in the user space, doesn't require administrative rights. And the minute they log in, they're published just the handful of applications they need to work with the organization. You can even restrict general browsing if that's what you want to do. But this allows them to save and reduce their reliance tremendously on some of these older technologies, right? Whether it's going to be in terms of license counts or just hardware infrastructure, such as Citrix, right? Or DLP technologies, VDI, desktop as a service capabilities. So, a whole bunch of other capabilities here that we've been able to help customers solve. Vinny talked about zero trust. We work a lot within the Gen AI space as well too. Safe browsing, of course. But there's one key area in light of what we saw happen, last week, is, the ability for an enterprise browser to help in a business continuity, right, or a disaster recovery type of scenario, providing alternate paths to be able to access your critical data in the event your machines are no longer available, right? So whether it's blue screen of death or potential concerns about having malware and lateral movement where you can't have your employees use those devices, right? So that's been something that has been really top of mind for a lot of customers as well too. And an enterprise browser can provide a use case to provide an alternative means to be able to help stand the organization back up in those types of use cases. What you're looking at right now is the Island Enterprise browser. So this is kind of that first instance when you log in. As you can tell, it has the exact same look and feel, just as what you've been used to. I've got access to my bookmarks, my tabs. I've got all my extensions here as well too. But because I'm logged into the browser now, right? We're integrating with your IDP, so I can log in using my credentials inside of this browser for auditing and logging capabilities. But I can also brand this with your corporate logo, color schemes, background images. So I make this your corporate browser instead of just any random browser on the within the internet there. And you'll notice here is as the user logs in, I can dynamically publish their entitlements. Here's access to all of their applications that they need based on their job functions, right? Or based on their device posture. Secure access to their workspaces. I can even route traffic to internal networks without the need for a VPN. So for developers, your intranet, access to backend servers like RDP servers, SSH servers, etc. Or if I'm a contractor, I might just want to publish the handful of applications they need to work with the organization, and that's it, right? So based on their profile and their functions, you can dynamically generate this workspace for them. One of the first applications I'll walk you through is just a critical SaaS application like Salesforce, right? Everything that I'm going to walk you through here applies to every website. This is a great example just because it contains a whole bunch of sensitive data here. One thing you'll notice here is that I can inject all these workflows inside of any application. So here's an example of robotic process automation where I can embed documentation, training, help desk integration right at that first page inside of this application. So they don't have to go to other sites to try to obtain information they might need to get their jobs done. And I've also added in a whole bunch of different ways where we can make the authentication and login process a lot simpler. So we have an integrated password manager here that's built off of a zero knowledge architecture. It makes it a lot more secure, centrally managed than what we've seen out there in the past. I can also leverage privileged account management and a whole bunch of different ways to be able to enable a much smoother, easier way for users to log into their applications. So once I log into Salesforce here, you'll notice there's a lot of different things that I'm doing inside of this environment now, right? One of the first things you'll notice here is that I can embed watermarks anywhere I want within your applications. This is just to ensure that if someone's taken a picture of your documents, you have these types of watermarks. I can embed QR codes here with that same information, as well as the username, IP address, date, and timestamp, right? So if this shows up on Facebook or Twitter, you at least have attribution to see who did that. So hopefully that's a good deterrent for users of trying to take data off of the application. Now, I'm also telling users, because you're in a corporate application, we're going to be logging and auditing all of your actions, right? So all of this activity is going to be monitored, and we're going to have security controls also in place. Now, we also have full extensions management capabilities. I don't want my information as I'm typing in sensitive data to be shipping out to third-party sites correcting my grammar, my spelling. So here you'll notice I have Grammarly installed in my browser, but it's actually not active inside of my critical application. So it's been disabled inside of this application. When I flip over to a personal application like Gmail, for example, I can re-enable that as well too, because they can get grammar correction inside of their personal email, right, with no issues. I talked about all the ways that we can take information off of the browser. So these are all the last mile controls that are really difficult to enforce. But because the browser controls the entire presentation layer, we can gate all of those functions. So the ability for someone to print using your own corporate verbiage, right? Security awareness training built right in. I can now gate that and tell users why they can't perform that action. The ability to save, cast, download, etc. We can gate all of that as well too. Let's say somebody wants to pull up a document and they want to look at a finance report. If they want to download this to edit this document, we'll scan for both malware and sensitive content. And because we saw sensitive content in this document, we can actually redirect the download so that it can only go to your approved cloud containers. So we can ensure that this file never lands on disk. So when you think about third parties, BYOD, right, your unmanaged devices, this is a great way to ensure that no sensitive data can ever be anywhere outside of your approved cloud containers only. Of course, we also integrate into Office 365. So all of the productivity suite that you need to be able to do your jobs in Excel, PowerPoint, etc., is all there as well too. And when that's done, it's all saved inside of this your approved cloud storage. I can do the same thing from an upload perspective, right? I might not want random files from their local machines moving up into my cloud. So here I can gate that and only allow approved locations to move files back and forth inside of my applications. Okay. Now, I mentioned earlier the ability for us to provide watermarks across any application. So you saw one version of that on the front page, but that would have made it a little, this one is a different version of that. So here I put a watermark with my email address, as well as just another snippet that tells the user not to photograph this data. Okay, so you have full control over the transparency, the font, customization of that watermark. Now, with this, though, I have the ability to also extend our controls into the ability for someone to screen share or screen capture my information. The minute I click into my reports tabs here, you're going to lose access to my screen because now in the reports section, I'm seeing rows of very sensitive data, but this ensures that I can't inadvertently share sensitive data through Zooms, Teams, Google Meets, et cetera, right? So you should be able to, or you shouldn't be able to see my screen at this point. And this extends even to the ability for someone to try to grab a screen capture. So if I try to load up my snipping tool or Snagit, print screen, et cetera, and I try to grab a screenshot of that, the thing that you'll notice here is I have that policy violation here that says screen capture is not allowed with your corporate logos in the back as well too, right? So lots of ways that we're ensuring that data can never leave the boundaries of an enterprise browser. Okay. So other things that I'm doing from a last mile control perspective, right? You'll notice here I have a section of data that's being redacted. So I have a credit card number here or payment information, right? And I have it scattered across different areas here as well too, where you're seeing that get blurred out. I don't want to interrupt that user workflow, right? Let's say somebody needs access to this data in order to update a document or continue with their work. The workflow I injected in here is just a basic click. So if they click on that, we'll tell the user, you're looking at sensitive data, I'll show it to you, but we're going to audit this. If they want to look at it, now they can copy this data and do whatever they need within this record, such as updating it and so forth. Now, we've also built in productivity tools to make this process a lot simpler too. This has really resonated with a lot of organizations that do a lot of data entry or they're moving data from multiple applications, somebody working chat programs, et cetera. We have an enterprise clipboard that saves a multi-buffer copy and paste. So now you can reuse this within any of your applications to make it a lot easier in reducing errors as you're moving that information around. Now, I mentioned the ability for us to ensure that data can flow in a seamless way across other approved applications. So now if I'm moving to another SaaS application like Office 365, you'll notice that I have the ability to reuse all of my clips here as well too. Okay, so it's these application boundaries that we're moving the data around. But you'll notice now if I try to move it on my personal Gmail, my clips all disappeared, right? So I have the ability now to ensure that no data that I took from corporate applications or sensitive areas can be used inside of personal applications. And if I highlight over this, I'll get that little warning that says you can't look at that data because we're context aware and application aware. But now inside of my personal Gmail, I'm also telling the user, because now you're doing personal browsing, we're not going to be Big Brother. We're not watching all of your traffic and your data. So your information is going to be anonymized. Security is still going to be there, but we're not going to be looking at your personal information. But now let's say the user wants to compose a message and they want to try to paste the content that they took earlier from Salesforce into their personal email. You'll notice now that they'll have that security awareness training pop up that says, hey, that data was from a sensitive area. You can't move it into your personal application. The same will also apply as if they try to take that into a local application, such as Notepad. So they try to load up a local application and paste that content there. We can extend the controls from the enterprise browser into this thick application as well too, right? So ensuring that data can never leave the boundaries of the areas that you've protected it in. Okay. So those are examples of all these different last mile controls that that an enterprise browser can enforce. I'll walk through a couple of other use cases here that has been really interesting is that I can also now provide the ability to route traffic to internal networks without the need for a VPN. So here is an example of an intranet site. You'll notice this is an internal IP address, non-routable, non-public. Without the need for additional agents or other tools, I can provide private access into this application. Here's another example of what that might look like for a server such as an ESX server. So this is a lab that I have in my Dallas environment for my entire team. Again, private IP address. And what I did here was, this is a shared account across my entire team. I don't want to provision users and passwords and maintain this, across the team. So I'm using privilege account management, and from here I can inject the credentials on the behalf of my users, right? So I never need to share this password to anybody, okay? And no one ever knows what it is or need to know what this is. And I mentioned earlier, because I control the entire elements of the browser, I can remove any buttons. Here I remove the eyeball button, so this password can never be revealed, right? Greatly reducing credentials risks for most organizations. And once I log into this environment, even though this is a shared application, because I'm uniquely logged into Island as myself, in our audit logs, I can attribute any changes and anything to this user, right? Even though it's a shared application. Now, we can even extend the capabilities to other protocols. So we have the ability to also provide RDP capabilities, RDS capabilities, provide app streaming as well too for potential thick apps or applications of that sort directly inside of an enterprise browser. So here I'm actually logging into a Windows 2019 environment. All of those last mile controls I showed earlier, the cut, copy, paste, the audit capabilities, logging, also apply within this environment as well too, right? So you think about use cases where you might have administrators that are using jump boxes, jump servers, et cetera. This is a great way to be able to do that inside the boundaries of an enterprise browser. And we can also provide the same capabilities with a full built-in SSH client. So this might reduce the need for additional tools that administrators have used in the past, like PuTTY, Secure CRT, Pre-Tunnel, et cetera. We provide full session recording capabilities inside of our SSH client. Again, all those last mile controls still apply here as well. This is where it gets really interesting, though. You think about the types of individuals that are logging into SSH environments, right? These are usually administrators. They have a lot of capabilities to potentially or inadvertently, cause damage, right? But because we have full session recording capabilities, full audit capabilities, we can track and understand everything that every admin is doing. But because we're rendering this inside of an enterprise browser, this allows me to take the concept of least privilege access almost to the next level. I can gate what administrators can do. So because I can see every keystroke that's about to hit, let's say an administrator wants to run a potential dangerous command, change mod. Here, I can inject this workflow to ask the user, hey, before you do that, I want you to further authenticate to before you run that command. So I can integrate this into your IDP. You can use our IDP as well too, but they have to authenticate before they can run this particular command. Now, let's say they want to run a script. So even within a script as well too, I can also inject a different workflow. I can say, hey, before you run that script, give me justification as to why. Is this testing? Are you performing maintenance? Or what is it that is required the need for you to run this particular script, right? So you can inject all these workflows inside of any of these applications, right? So it just really gives you the ability to set any workflows based on your business logic. With that, let me go ahead and pivot now, and I'll actually jump into our administrative console. I just gave you a quick highlight of just some of the capabilities we have within our enterprise browser here. And I'm going to be pivoting now and looking at the administration side now. So this is where all of the rules, the policies, audit, logs, everything is all stored. Everything we just looked at before was that end user experience. But here you can see this is a modern dashboard, highly configurable, customized to your needs, extensible widgets, etc. Tons of information around incidents, applications, last mile controls that your users, as they're being logged. And because I mentioned earlier, we sit right in the middle of your IT stack. So we integrate with the majority of the different solutions in your environment today. These are all the different IDP vendors we work with, Okta, Azure AD, etc. If yours is not on the list, anything that's SAML based, we can integrate and work with fairly easily. This is a list of all of the SIM SOAR data lakes that we also can export our data to so that we can enrich your infrastructure with enterprise browser logs and information. Okay. But this is where the a lot of that magic actually occurs now is in our logging capabilities, right? So everywhere that I navigated to in the past 20 minutes is all stored in our audit section here. But again, this is also all exportable, filterable. You can slice and dice this data any way that you want. But here, you'll notice that I'm grabbing a ton of information. I'm grabbing everything at layer 7, right? And my policy for my demo was start to turn a lot of this data on. I can show a whole bunch of metadata around the device itself, IP address, locations, URL, top-level domains of where the user is navigating to. I can provide entire screenshots of what the user is seeing. And I can also grab keystrokes if I want to grab that within sensitive areas as well too, right? So when I was navigating inside of my Office 365 here, I can get a play-by-play and show you exactly where users are clicking their mouse. Okay. But I also mentioned earlier the ability for us to provide users with the assurance of privacy. So when I was inside of my personal email, you'll see security incidents being blocked. So copying and pasting data was blocked, but we're actually not grabbing screenshots of the user's personal email, right? Because that was a policy that we set here. Okay. The last piece I want to walk you through is also the ability for us to extend this into productivity management, performance management across all of your applications as well. Because the browser is installed on your devices, it understands the locations and the interaction with all of the applications that the users are working in. It can help you pinpoint productivity challenges very quickly. So instead of having to use other performance tools we've seen in the past, like App Dynamics or New Relic, et cetera, we can provide you with this digital experience across all your applications, users, and machines. So here, I can highlight the application scores, right? Latency speeds, upload speeds, download speeds, which devices are and networks are performing better than others that you might have within the environment, right? So just, again, a wealth of information around everything that the users can interact with.